Kelly here, and I'm back with another video. Today's video is featuring some products from Spellbinders. We are going to be using some 3D embossing folders. I am using the Twirling Tulips, the Lemon Fresco, and the 4-Petal Floral. I'm also using a lot of other products from Spellbinders, but honestly I cannot remember all of their names off the top of my head. So I know one of them is the Gorgeous You Flowers, and I think it's the mirror arch stacking ones, and then the regular arch. But anywho, we're going to be doing a couple of different takes on the blackout technique. If you're not familiar with the blackout technique, I have done other videos on this, but I wanted to show you that A, you don't have to just use black, and B, there's other ways that you can kind of dress it up to make it a little bit different. So we are going to start with the Twirling Tulips, and we're going to do that one pretty much just like a traditional blackout technique. I am spritzing, I'm using Nina 80-pound solar white cardstock for all of these, and I am spritzing them before I'm putting them into the embossing folder, and this is just going to help so that we get a really nice embossed image, but our paper does not crack. And then the 4-Petal Floral has like a blank space in the middle. And so that one is a little bit different. And then the Lemon Fresco has kind of like a, I don't know, how would we describe that? Like maybe a little bit, Mediterranean, like tiles kind of vibe. It's a little bit busier. So with this, because I have the Spellbinders Platinum 6, on my universal plates, that's what I was pointing to. It shows me exactly what I need for my sandwich to do the 3D embossing folder. So for the 3D embossing folder with the Spellbinders Platinum 6, I need the base plate, which is the A plate, and then I need the D adapter plate, and that's it. That's all I need. Also, you don't necessarily have to run them through twice. I just prefer to do that. I want to make sure that I get a really good impression. But again, follow the sandwich for a 3D embossing folder for whatever machine it is that you have. This is just what I have. And obviously all of these start out as white. That's one of my favorite things about card making, is everything starts off with just like a blank canvas, and we turn it into all kinds of different things. So these are beautiful as is. You know, we get the really nice deep embossing, but we are going to add lots of color to them. That one's more of like a frame, but we're going to switch it up so that the frame is a little bit different. And then this one, the Lemon Fresco one, normally is not my style because it does have a lot going on, but that's okay because we found a way to make it a little bit simpler. So first things first, you can do the blackout technique two ways. I'll link to a video at the end that shows the two different ways you can do it. I am going to do mine all the same way this time, which is flipping the embossing over. So I'm actually adding color into the debossed areas, not to the embossed areas. And so I am using just like the smaller ink blending brushes. You certainly could use a more detailed brush. So I do want to take the time to mention, if you don't know, Spellbinders had purchased Hero Arts much earlier in the year. And so they both have kind of different sales going on at the time. So the Spellbinders one, they always have their clearance, just like Hero Arts always has they call it their last call. But then they also have right now, Hero Arts is offering a back to crafting sale, which is 25% off of tools, accessories, inks. So all the inks that you see me using today, and a storage solutions, a bunch of other things. And then Spellbinders also has a sale going on, which is buy one, get one. And, they have them kind of like categorized. I'll link everything below. But then so you could go and see, and then of course they always have their clearance, which they're always adding to. So those are just some things that I wanted to give you the heads up on. So here I am using, like I said, my Hero Arts inks, but you can use any ink that you have. You can use Distress inks. You can use other company like Altenews fresh dye inks. You can use whatever you have to put the color on. It's not going to affect the technique. So just use what you got. So here, I wanted it to be colorful because, you know, I knew I wasn't going to be really doing anything else to this card. So I wanted to make sure that there was going to be a lot of color variation and gradients and things that would kind of pop off that background. That's the, I guess, like the magic of the blackout technique. So, as I said before, you know, sometimes to get into those smaller spaces, you could use the smaller detail brushes, or I have another trick, which I'll show you here in a little bit. So I actually made these. You'll see my nail polish switch in the middle of the video. It did take me a while to make them, just because we're like ink blending all of the backgrounds and then all of the die cutting and then the shading of the die cuts and then putting the cards together. So this one was quite involved, as you'll notice, you know, that it's 30 some minutes long. But I think that, like, especially for me, when I find like a technique that I really love, I want to use it, but I don't want my card making to feel stale, or like sometimes I get into ruts where I'm like, I always make the same card. And that is not enjoyable for me. So I do like finding new ways to use not only products that I love, but techniques that I love. So once we have all of the ink blending done on the tulips, and I think they have other ones, other flowers that are like this, that are not tulips. But then I'm going to go in and pretty much I'm just going to lay down a base layer of my lightest green, which in this case is kiwi. And so I am going to kind of like jump ahead so you don't have to painstakingly watch me color the whole entire background. And then I will add some shading to my leaves with the fresh lawn and then pine as well. We don't have to worry about what the background is going to look like. It looks like a big old mess right now. But that's totally fine, because once we do the technique, everything will kind of come together. And this particular technique in general is not necessarily about perfection. Like none of our backgrounds are going to look perfect, but they will look striking. And that's kind of the vibe, right? So I do like to do a little bit of shading, especially because like this particular one has a lot of leaves in between these tulips. And so I didn't want that to just to be like one color flat across. Now there are some times where, like, because the leaves are closer to the flowers or vice versa, that sometimes you do get a little bit of the ink blending where you maybe wouldn't want it. You know, like get maybe that pink, orange, yellow one there on the right hand side, like that leaf is coming out from behind it. So I did get a little bit of green into my flower. It doesn't bother me, but if it bothers you, you definitely want to switch over to the detail brushes, because this technique really is not about perfection. We're not going to be able to get it perfectly perfect. So with that said, like I said, I made these quite some time ago, but I think I don't know, Spellbinders kind of moves their stuff around. I think that all of the products are still available. I probably should have double checked, but I mean, really, with any 3D embossing folder that you have, you can do this technique. You don't necessarily have to have exactly what I have. And then with all of my ink blending, if you guys watch my channel, you know that I do like to go back over my ink blending just to make sure everything is kind of smooth. So that's what I'm doing from the pine back to the fresh lawn to the kiwi. And then once I'm happy with how that's looking, I'm going to set it aside and start ink blending the next one, and so on and so forth. For the next two, because we've seen this one like in, well, just slightly sped up, I am going to really speed up the inking of the other backgrounds, because I feel like you get it. You get what we need to do. You flip it over, you add the ink to the debossed areas, and then, you know, however many times you want to ink blend that. I always try to make sure that I leave it in just so that there's no question. That does mean that I do speed it up, speed it up just a little bit, even if there's like no coloring. So here, this is where I was talking about, like, there is a way to get into those little nooks and crannies more specifically if you want, and you can do it with a marker. Again, that's still not going to be perfection, because even when you put the marker down into the well of, you know, like the debossed area, you will touch the sides and it will kind of bleed out into that white. So there's no way to get it to be perfect. So for this one, because this one is a little bit busier, I did keep the color palette to a minimum. So I did the lemons in Butter Bar, and then I shaded them with, I can't remember if it was fawn or caramel. I'll double check. And then for the greenery, I'm using the same greens that we just used on the tulip card, and then that's all of the, like, those are the only two colors I'm going to use in the background. There's a lot happening here, and I don't want to overwhelm the design. I still want there to be nice blends and color variation, but I don't want it to be like super crazy in your face. Not that that's a bad thing. Like, some people, that's totally their vibe, and I'm not yucking your yum, but for me, it's just not. And so I like to find a way to use these styles that I think are really pretty, without it being just like wild crazy. And then the last one is a little bit more wild crazy, but the 3D embossing folder lends itself to that. So here I am going in with my alcohol markers just for the, like, the stems, or the branches that the lemons are on, because I did find it very difficult to get into those little crevices. And so I wanted to make sure that those were green. You could not ink blend at all, and you could totally just use alcohol markers into the background. It probably won't work with colored pencils, because most colored pencils have a wax base, and so it would repel the moisture. But you could also maybe watercolor them, do some ink smushing on some watercolor paper. Maybe that's another way to switch it up and try. We'll have to try that. So with this one, I am not going in like I have been, like the tulips, you know, I had specific colors for the tulips, specific colors for the leaves. I had specific colors for the lemons, specific colors for the leaves. This one is a free for all. All I'm doing is trying to pay attention to the colors that are next to each other so that I don't make mud. But other than that, I am just doing kind of like a general kind of rainbow feel for around these flowers. This one, I like the way that it came out. It's probably my second favorite. I wouldn't say it's my favorite, but it is my second favorite, because I like cards like this where it's just kind of like more free flowing and there's a lot of different colors, and it feels very like rainbowy and like celebratory. I don't know. I just like those types of backgrounds. I did save my greens for some of the leaves. So that's what you see me going in here and doing. And again, I used the same greens. I don't think I went all the way out to the pine. I think I just used the kiwi and the fresh lawn. But I made sure when I was laying down the colors that I was putting that green by colors that it would work pretty well with, because I want my florals to be pretty, but I still want to be able to see like the leaf portion of it. I still want that green to be there because that's kind of the one color that is continuous throughout all three of the designs. So then once we have those all done, then what I like to do is I like to kind of plan out how my cards are going to look. So that way I'm not spending a ton of time die cutting out a bunch of things that I'm not going to use. So, you know, the first one is more traditional, just the, you know, blackout technique. The second one with the lemons is staying within its collection. You know, Spellbinders always releases collections. A lot of companies do. That one is going to stay within its collection. So the lemon fresco embossing folder also matches with these, you know, the lemons and the sentiment that goes with it. The third one, none of these products go together. And like the mirror arch doesn't, I think these are the Gorgeous You florals. I'm not 100% positive. They're all meant to go with different products, but you can bring them together if you own these products or different products that maybe aren't meant to go together. You can still come up with a beautiful card and combine things differently to stretch your supplies. So all of my cardstock, I think, is Spellbinders. I will double check that. And so is the vellum. But so here, like as I'm laying them out, that allowed me to pull out my dies and figure out what I am going to need to die cut. I knew for those mirrored archways that I was going to want like a double layer. One was going to be a matte, one was going to be on the inside. For the arch, I wanted something that was going to allow my focal point to be the star of the show, but didn't cover up too much of that beautiful 3D embossing that we had in the background. For this particular sentiment, the sentiment is meant to sit in the center of the banner. So you can do it one of two ways. You can do the sentiment portion first and then die cut it out with the banner, or I did the banner first so that I could get the sentiment centered, and then I went ahead and ran that through. The sentiment for that one says "Hello Sunshine." And then like this is, I'm just kind of trying to get a feel for how they're going to lay out together. So that way I know, card wise what exactly I am going to be doing. I call it dry fitting, and I do that with pretty much every card that I make, unless, you know, for some reason there is like a clean and simple card style and I don't have to worry about it. For this one, this is actually meant to go with the 4 petal dies. That's the shape that's in the center, and they have that shape of dies. I didn't know if I wanted to go with white or if I wanted to use more vellum. I did like the white better. I felt like it made everything else a little bit brighter, whereas the vellum kind of kept everything a little bit more subdued. Didn't love that so much. And white is one of the colors that actually carries through all of the design. So once I figured out how it's all going to work out, I am going to go in and add some shading with the ink blending. And again, you could use alcohol markers, you could add shading however you would like. I just kind of kept it super simple because I know sometimes my particular I was going to say brand, but that's not what I mean. My particular coloring technique isn't necessarily for everybody. And so I do like to periodically show that you can get really interesting cards without having to, you know, use 4 color blends in your alcohol markers. Because the backgrounds here are kind of like they're the most interesting part of the card. I don't worry too much about the shading that's being done on the flowers and leaves. So, a little bit of story time. I have shared with you guys, like if you've watched my channel, I have shared with you guys, I am one of 3 girls, and I'm the baby of my family. And so that means that most often, I was never the babysitter. I was always the child being babysat by my siblings. And I think things have changed quite a bit, as far as like kids watching their siblings, whereas before, like, they were watching them younger and younger. Now it's, like back then, my middle sister, was 3 years older than me, and she was in charge when my parents went bowling on Saturday nights. And she was she was in charge like when she was like 14 and I was like 10 or 11. Like, I think that's different now. But there are often times where I will be able to get done, like the creating portion of my day. But I don't necessarily have time to get to the voiceover. And so sometimes, not very often, I will ask my son to hang out with his sister. Like, hey, can you just hang out with your sister for like a half an hour so I can do my voiceover? And can I just tell y'all that is one of the best things. That's one of the best things ever, because I trust him. He's very responsible. Also, I'm still in the house, so if there's, some sort of emergency, like I am right here. But also then it forces them to kind of hang out together, because they do have a little bit of a bigger age gap. But yeah, so super nice. All right, let's talk about the technique. So here I've picked out some colors that I want to do the blackout technique with. Now, just because it's a blackout technique doesn't mean that you have to use black. I have a Speedball brayer. I also have a Tim Holtz brayer. You can use either one or whatever other brand that you have. This is the medium size Tim Holtz brayer. So here I am using pitch black. I've inked it up, and then I am going to add that ink right over top. And you can see like the color starts popping. Here's the thing. Okay. So if you go over it in a different direction, you will more than likely put down more ink. Like you'll see here, I'm coming at it from a little bit of a different direction, and I am getting a more solid ink application. But it also does mean that you risk any areas that you have a very large expanse of open area that you're going to get black down in there because there isn't anything to hold it up. So with that being said, rather than risk a bunch of black on the bottom, I like to apply as much ink as I can, and then I will go in with an alcohol marker and finish adding in any of the areas that I couldn't get. Now, not everybody enjoys this, or not everybody has the dexterity for it, and that's totally fine. You could even leave it just the way that it is. I use the pitch black in this case, but a black pigment ink would work even better. So like I like Altenews Obsidian ink. That one works really, really well. But you can cheat with the marker, and here you can see we have like a super bold outline. Now, in order to switch it up some, you can actually switch colors. You just need a color darker than the ink blending that you've done in the background. So I really wanted to do these little tiles, these little like kind of like Moroccan Mediterranean vibe tiles, navy, because I thought that would pop so much with the lemons and that like lime green. So I am using Nautical. Like any other navy ink would do. I think Gina K has one called In the Navy that's good. So this one, you can see that lemon up there at the top right there, because there was nothing for my brayer to sit on. It dipped right down into that lemon. So that's what I was talking about before when I was saying like this technique is not perfection. This technique, you have to be willing to, just kind of let it be what it is. And again, you could just, keep applying from different directions until you get good coverage. Or once again, you can use your marker. I really like the Nautical, but it's not as blue. Like it's not as blue as I would like it. So I chose to go in there and go right over top of it. I think this is indigo. And so some of the areas are a bit brighter than other areas, but I feel like that adds to it somehow. I don't know. I really, really like the way that this one came out. And for those little, smaller areas, I did go in with a marker. Not all of them. Like, I did leave some of them just kind of a little with their imperfections, but for ones that had like really large areas of white, I did fill those ones in. And it was super simple. It didn't take very long at all. I actually find that part of it really relaxing. So once that one is all done, that's what that looks like before we add any of the other details. And then for this one, I originally went in with the pine because I was like, oh, that green will make everything else kind of pop. And I'm gonna be honest, I did not love it. It did definitely give like flowers in the forest vibes, but I was not loving the way that it looked. Being that like true green. I'm not sure why. So I am going to change it here in a little bit. I'm not going to do the whole thing all over again because, well, I don't do that. Like, everything is fixable. So at first, even though I don't love it, I am like, I'm going to try to go in with this green marker and see if that will make it any better. It didn't. I did let it sit for a minute so that I could take a look at it. If you want to trim any of your like 3D embossing pieces after the fact, using the sliding trimmers, I have ripped several pieces. So I have found that the guillotine trimmer works much better, whatever brand you have. This one I got from Spellbinders. It's about $30, just shy of $30. I actually got mine in a like another kind of kit at the holiday time. So here is where I'm going to switch it up. So I'm going in with more of a blue green instead of a green. And then I'm just going to go right over top of that. And this did help me personally because I didn't love the green. This did help me to like the card more. So now I'm going to go back to that one. I did end up adding like white highlights to all of the cards in some way, but this one has the most. So I'm going in and I'm taking that white gel pen and I am doing all of the details in the background. So, I might have colored them yellow or I might have colored them green while I was doing the ink blending, but now I'm going in and I'm making all of those white. And it was so worth the time that it took to do that because it ended up looking so good. The other ones I did do some white detail, but not as much. I added some white dots to the center of the flowers on this one. I did some white just in the one, like there's just one tulip that you can see the stamen. And so I did the white in there. And then we're going to move on to the building. So all of them got trimmed, even though I showed you only the one. And this one's just super simple. We're going to glue it down. There's going to be a white border. And then we're going to put on our sentiment and we're going to call it good. Because the blackout technique is so dramatic and so striking, you really don't have to do anything else than that. Like, this will carry itself. We obviously are going to do more than that, but you don't have to. We were talking about the kids. So yeah, like I'm really loving the fact that not only can he kind of like help me out and hang out with his sister so I can get some other things done if I need it, which is pretty rare, like I said, but also that they will hang out together. And so like the other, what day was it? I think it was last week. He very sweetly was like, Caitlin, do you want to come outside with me? And so they were outside playing. And then he taught her how to ride the scooter herself. So she was so proud of herself and he was so sweet for teaching her. And so like the fact that they, even though they have that age gap, that they want to spend time together, just makes my little mama heart so happy because like there is a different age gap between me and my older sister and then me and my middle sister. And like, I love them. They're my favorite people. I want to see them all the time. And I know not everybody has that with their siblings. So here, this one, it is a little bit busier. That's why we have the vellum, but I don't want to I don't want to cover up all of that work in the background because I think it is really, really pretty. So I cut the arch out of the vellum, and I'm going to glue everything to the arch before I glue the arch to the card. So for the sentiment, I backed it with a navy banner that I just pulled down and to the left a little bit to have like a little bit of a shadow to help it kind of bounce up for like that it would have a little bit more heft and it wouldn't blend into the background. And then once I arranged all of my little lemons and the leaves, like I said, I'm gluing them to the vellum first. And this is because obviously the vellum is transparent. You can see through it. And so we don't want to see all of the adhesive behind it. So by doing this, by making our arrangement first, we are giving ourselves places to hide the adhesive and still be able to use that vellum, to kind of showcase that background. So I put my leaves down, I put my lemons down, tucked in all of my leaves, and now I'm going to flip it over and put that foam tape anywhere that I can, that it's not going to be visible on the other side of it. And so thankfully, by putting the sentiment at the bottom and then the lemons at the top, I have two places that it will adhere, and so that little archway is going absolutely nowhere at all. So that one is good. For the third one, this is the one that like combines all of the different sets themselves. Obviously, you can see in there, even like if you look at it, like there's that 4 petal shape in the middle, because it is meant to be a frame. But by using a different type of frame, we can change the way that looks. So this is, what's that blue? Cosmic Sky. It's one of my favorites. And then, doing the white just kind of brightened everything up a little bit and allowed the flowers that sat on top to really shine. And then just by putting that on there, like it changes the way that the card looks. So we're going to build up these florals. These come together really easily. It did take me, you'll see here in just a minute with the center of this flower, like I kept turning it and turning it and turning it, trying to find where it was supposed to sit. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think there is a perfect way for it to sit. I think you just put the middle on there and it looks fine however it looks. I don't think that there is like it has to be in a specific spot. So that is the large flower. This one that is the side view has the 3 pieces. So the one on top and then the like the stamen in the center, these were really easy to put together. Everything kind of lines up, and then you have that little bit of a fluted bottom. You can't really see it for the floral arrangement that's kind of in the top left, but in the bottom right, you could definitely see that like bottom of the flower, which doesn't look necessarily bad, but I wanted to cover up just the bottom edge a little bit, and so I just did that with a leaf, and then put more glue down, and then picked up well, tried to anyway. I guess I was running into issues now watching it back. But then I add glue, I set it down, I press it on there. You could also use the press and seal hinge method. I do have a video about that as well, and it works really well for, putting together bouquets and things of that nature. But this typically, because I'm feeling very lazy when it comes to putting the die cuts together, building them together. This is the way that I normally do it. So then once everything is sticking together, then I can add glue to the back of it and put it all, as one piece. once I had all like the flowers glued, then I did flip it over. I popped this one up as well. And I waited to do the sentiment until it was on, just so that I could be sure about where all the flowers and everything were sitting before I put that on there. I didn't want to do the bottom and then put it on and find out that like the top didn't work. So this one reaches pretty much all the way across. I did tuck in the E behind that little pink flower. And then just to finish them off, I added some rhinestones, some more than others, to help kind of guide the eye and add some shine. I also added shimmer to all of my flowers and my letters in the smile. And then you guys saw me do the white highlights. This is one last look at them. The blackout technique, but a little bit expanded. I hope that this inspires you guys to use, what you have. If you're interested in any of these products, I will link them below. Don't forget to check out those sales. That Spellbinders one, I think, is good through the 7th. So anyway, thank you so much. I always appreciate your time, and I'll catch you on the next video. Bye.